The DC versus Marvel debate has been going on for the longest time. And for the longest time, Marvel has been winning according to the comic media fans I've talked to. However, I think that may have changed. Ever since Endgame, Marvel has been releasing a lot of mediocre movies and shows. There have been a couple of decent movies, a couple of really good shows as well, although I'm hesitant to include the Spider-Man movies because I feel like their quality can mostly be attributed to Sony. Meanwhile, DC has stopped trying to emulate Marvel for the most part and has gotten back to the more dark and serious storytelling, and they have found more success than they did before. I went to see The Batman 3 times in theaters, mostly because I kept falling asleep during it. It's a very long movie, but I enjoyed it a lot. That's not to say all of DC's projects have been good. We have Black Adam and Blue Beetle. But notice I said Marvel and DC, not DCU and MCU. DC does a lot of animated movies that get zero marketing and go straight to digital or DVD. And these movies are slept on, and there are a lot of them. Since 2007, there have been 53 animated films released by DC, compared to Marvel's 8 animated films since 2006. Looking at these movies, I realized something that DC is doing that Marvel is failing at, or at the very least, isn't trying to do. It's having these movies take place in their own universes. The connected universe thing was novel 5 or 6 years ago, but I think it ends up taking away more than it adds to these films. For example, there have been multiple actors that have played Batman. Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck, and Christian Bale, to name a few. Each of them have played Batman in different universes. They told different Batman stories, but still stayed relatively true to the source material, but not being one-for-one recreations. I can have a debate about the best Batman, but when everything is connected, it makes it harder to change out actors or do reboots. If there was a new Iron Man or Tony Stark that wasn't Robert Downey Jr., people would complain and probably boycott or something crazy like that. It's the continuity that hurts Marvel the most. I know it sounds crazy, but let me explain. The fact that everything is connected leads to a fair amount of people watching more Marvel movies than they would have. This might sound like a good thing, but if a hypothetical version of me was a Doctor Strange fan and I hated Spider-Man or Tom Holland, I would be incentivized to watch Spider-Man No Way Home because Doctor Strange was in the trailers and was seemingly a large part of the movie. That could lead a small portion of viewers to being dissatisfied. With the connected universes, Marvel is also incentivized to continuously incorporate these characters into each other's stories, which I understand is the point of a connected universe, but in my opinion, it makes these stories rely too much on other characters. For example, Iron Man, Nick Fury, and the other Spider-Man and Doctor Strange did a lot of heavy lifting in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Not to imply that Tom Holland needed the help, but that is just how I felt the films were structured. While having a good supporting cast is important, it definitely shouldn't take away from the main character or the main actor. At the start of the MCU, this was actually the complete opposite. As I remember, the original Hulk, Iron Man, and Thor movies were pretty good while being separate, but they built upon each other. I think this was before the MCU started to focus on one grand and expansive universe with all of these characters and stories. The more disjointed existence of DC makes it a lot easier to enjoy individual bodies of work. I can watch the different Batman movies on their own. While there is continuity in DC movies, they are localized to the respective series. The animated movies are more connected than the live action films, but the animated movies come out every 3 to 6 months, and I think are higher quality than a lot of the recent MCU films. Maybe I shouldn't say higher quality, but I enjoy them a hell of a lot more. And even though these films are more connected than their live action counterparts, they take place in one connected universe that has anywhere from 10 to 20 films spanning anywhere from 3 to 5 years, and then a reboot happens. And if not a reboot, they just start telling another universe's story. If both companies keep their current trajectory, we may soon see DC become more profitable than Marvel. Although I think this will take a long time because of the reputation that each company has cultivated, I think it could happen in the next 5 to 10 years, because regardless of the quality of Marvel movies, they're still going to sell well, just like COD. I'd argue that DC is already more favored in the public than Marvel, but that could just be in my social circles and my social media feeds. Right now, I've come to the conclusion that DC is more aligned with my interest as a content consumer than Marvel is, excluding the Spider-Man films. But again, I would attribute most of the quality of the Spider-Man films to Sony rather than Marvel, especially the Miles Morales Spider-Man films, which I would say are competing with some of the best Spider-Man films we currently have. But back to my main point, DC is more aligned with my interest as a content consumer than Marvel is, and I'm certain I can't be the only one who thinks that. It does feel like anything Disney touches slowly burns to the ground, so I'm inclined to believe that Disney is the reason that people say that both Star Wars and Marvel films have declined significantly in quality. Although I haven't touched a Disney movie in years, so I wouldn't know. I could just be blowing smoke, I'm not sure.